The third book in the Resonance tetralogy, Ruin's Dawn, continues the story of the world of Ares. A prequel, it travels back in time to a young Aiden long before any of the events of the first two books. We meet Faria's father at a time when he is young and adventurous with no idea of the future he will face. Once more returning to Ares, this time we experience it at a time long before Faria sets out to save her home from the ravages of the Draka. Following the journey of her father from a much younger age, we see the world long before the version we know. The main character in this book is definitely Aiden, Faria's father, starting from the young age of cubhood and growing to the young adult he was when he first came to know Osiris. As a young fox, he is a somewhat typical child/teenager, getting into things he shouldn't and eager to try everything. When his aptitude for resonance crystals is noticed, he is offered to train among the Oresians, a race of griffins seeking to impart their knowledge and wisdom before their race dies. As I noted to the author, Aiden at this age is intensely naive, but this is not unrealistic. At that age, we all tend to think we know everything and can fix anything, despite not having the life experience to know better, which can only be won with time. Hoping to make peace between the Griffins and the warlike Draka, he believes that with the power he holds, he can make the whole world better. A young fox named Aiden has the gift of resonance, the ability to manipulate the world around him through crystals. A prodigy, he is offered the chance to train with the learned Griffins when he is ready. Eager and interested, he leaves home to learn all he can and hopes to change the world. I went into this story expecting a very different book. Now this is not a slight on the part of the author, but rather my own expectations. Assuming, though clearly incorrectly, that the second book would continue to follow Faria, I also incorrectly assumed that the third book would feature Osiris taking Tyrenin to Skyria to return home. Assuming the fox on the cover was perhaps Kyr or some other character, it was a surprise to me, albeit not an unpleasant one, to find out it began much sooner, with young Aiden, many ages before we meet him in Legacy. Chosen to train among the Griffins of Arete, Aiden quickly becomes an exceptional student in the art of resonance, seeking to learn all he can about the techniques. During his lessons, he learns more about the Draka and the long-standing rivalry between them and the Griffins. Believing he can find a way to get all of the races to live in peace, he makes a bold gambit to attempt to convince them to work together instead of going to war. I have to admit that I remember thinking more than once, particularly when Aiden starts talking about challenging the Griffins' notions that the Draka are dangerous, that he was being incredibly naive. I don't consider myself a pessimist or a cynic, but I know how to read people and characters very well, and I know some people will follow their mentality to the end of the earth rather than consider an alternative point of view, even if only for the sake of argument. Such is the case with the Draka, who, although they play nice in the early stages, clearly never show good faith to pursue the goal of mutual benefit, nor do they make any effort to reach out to the others without some benefit to themselves. The author does a fantastic job of conveying the conflicting agendas present in the story. Despite the main character's best efforts to build something truly remarkable, it is clear from their interactions that some seek to advance their knowledge for the benefit of all, while others simply wish to increase their own power at whatever the cost. Overall, I'd say that it's a very enjoyable book, as all of the author's books tend to be, with three-dimensional characters who feel very real. The plot is well crafted, with a lot of the threads tying back into seeds we've seen planted earlier in the series. For the final act of the book, it takes the unusual step of launching the main character forward in time by several millennia. And while I can't say I saw it coming, I had actually, again incorrectly, just assumed that Aiden was long-lived due to his resonance or something along those lines. Once in the future, he is eventually reunited with Osiris and becomes slowly familiar with the world he now inhabits. While the material itself is very interesting, I have to say that as an ending it was somewhat anticlimactic. I had expected something more, given the building to the event that catapulted Aiden to the future, but instead of a finale that resolves the storyline at hand, the last act is more of an aside. We are left to wonder what happened to the majority of the characters at the end of the third act, and introduced to effectively a new setting, which, although equally compelling, doesn't provide the closure I had hoped for with regards to the current story. Though the finale does a good job of returning most of the characters to their Book 1 starting positions, I can't help but wonder if it could have been accomplished more organically. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, click the subscribe button and leave a comment below. Catch you later.